Imagine a war erupting between China and India. The sheer scale of such a conflict is almost unimaginable, yet it is a scenario that experts cannot ignore. This is not a scene from a dystopian film, but a chilling possibility that haunts experts today. The geopolitical tensions between these two nations have been simmering for decades, and any miscalculation could lead to a full-blown war. Both nations are nuclear-armed giants boasting massive populations and formidable militaries. Their military capabilities are among the most advanced in the world, and their economies are powerhouses that drive global growth. A conflict between them would be catastrophic, not just for Asia, but for the entire world. The devastation would be unprecedented, with millions of lives at risk and entire regions destabilized. The very foundations of global stability and economic order would be shaken. International trade would grind to a halt, stock markets would plummet, and the global economy could face a crisis unlike any seen before. Such a war would be about more than just territory or ideology. It would be a battle for supremacy, a test of national resolve, and a struggle for control over vital resources and strategic positions. It would be a clash of civilizations, a struggle for dominance in the 21st century. The historical animosities and cultural differences would only add fuel to the fire, making the conflict even more complex and intractable. At stake are not just lives and land, but the future of Asia and the balance of power on the world stage. The outcome of such a conflict would reshape the geopolitical landscape for generations to come. The world watches with bated breath, hoping for diplomacy to prevail. The international community must work tirelessly to de-escalate tensions and find a peaceful resolution, but the drums of war beat ever louder, a stark reminder of the fragility of peace in our time. The spectre of conflict looms large, and the consequences of inaction are too grave to ignore. The consequences of inaction are too grave to ignore. Millions could be displaced, creating a humanitarian crisis of epic proportions. The ripple effects would be felt far beyond the borders of China and India. The international community must act decisively to prevent this nightmare scenario from becoming a reality. Diplomatic efforts, economic sanctions, and international pressure must be leveraged to ensure peace. The stakes are simply too high to fail. The future of millions and the stability of nations and the peace of the world depend on our collective actions. We must strive for a world where diplomacy triumphs over conflict and peace prevails over war. To understand the present, we must delve into the past. The seeds of conflict between China and India were sown long ago. The two nations share a long and tumultuous history, marked by border disputes and mistrust. The ghost of the 1962 war, which ended in a humiliating defeat for India, still casts a long shadow over their relations. The Himalayan border, a treacherous landscape of snow-capped peaks and icy valleys, has been a constant source of friction. Both sides accuse the other of incursions and provocations. The line of actual control, a poorly demarcated boundary, is a testament to their unresolved differences. In recent years, tensions have flared up again. The 2017 Doklam standoff and the 2020 Galwan Valley clash, which resulted in casualties on both sides, have brought the two nuclear-armed neighbors perilously close to the brink of war. The scars of the past run deep, fueling mistrust and suspicion. The wounds of history have yet to heal, making the current situation all the more volatile and dangerous. China and India have been engaged in a frantic arms race, each seeking to outdo the other in military might. China, with its booming economy, has poured vast sums into modernizing its armed forces. It boasts a formidable arsenal of advanced weaponry, including stealth fighters, aircraft carriers, and hypersonic missiles. India, while lagging behind in military spending, has also made significant strides in upgrading its military capabilities. It has acquired advanced fighter jets from France and Russia and is developing its own indigenous defense technologies. On paper, China enjoys a quantitative and qualitative edge in several key areas. Its navy is larger and more modern, while its air force possesses more advanced fighter jets. However, India has the advantage of geography on its side. The Himalayas pose a formidable barrier to any Chinese offensive, and India has been fortifying its defenses in the region. The outcome of a war between these two Asian giants is far from certain. It would be a clash of titans, a protracted and bloody conflict with no clear winner. Section 4, the tinderbox, what could ignite the fire? The border dispute remains the most likely flashpoint for a Sino-Indian war. The line of actual control, or LAC, is a poorly demarcated boundary that has seen numerous skirmishes and standoffs over the years. The rugged terrain and harsh weather conditions add to the complexity, making it a tinderbox waiting to ignite. A miscalculation or a provocation, even a minor one, could spiral out of control, leading to a full-blown conflict. The 2020 Galwan Valley clash, which resulted in casualties on both sides, is a stark reminder of how quickly things can escalate. Both sides have deployed thousands of troops along the border, raising the risk of an accidental clash. The presence of heavy artillery, tanks, and advanced weaponry only heightens the stakes, making the situation extremely volatile. But the border is not the only potential trigger. The competition for natural resources, particularly water, is another significant source of tension between the two nations. Competition for resources, especially water, is another source of tension. The Brahmaputra River, which originates in Tibet and flows into India, is a crucial water source for millions of people in both countries. The Brahmaputra and other major rivers that flow from Tibet into India are a lifeline for millions. Any disruption in the flow of these rivers could have catastrophic consequences for agriculture, drinking water, and overall livelihoods. China's plans to dam these rivers have raised alarm bells in India, which fears that China could use water as a weapon. The construction of large-scale dams and water diversion projects by China has led to concerns about reduced water flow and potential flooding downstream. Moreover, the growing rivalry between the two countries in the Indian Ocean is a cause for concern. The Indian Ocean is a critical maritime route for global trade, and both nations are keen to assert their dominance in this strategic region. China's expanding naval presence in the region, coupled with its string-of-pearls strategy of establishing naval bases in friendly countries, has been met with suspicion by India. This strategy aims to encircle India and project Chinese power far beyond its shores. The geopolitical landscape is also becoming increasingly volatile. The rise of China as a global superpower and its assertive foreign policy have unsettled many countries, including India. The rise of China, coupled with the United States' pivot to Asia, has created new dynamics that could draw India and China into a wider conflict. The involvement of other major powers, such as the United States, Russia, and Japan, adds another layer of complexity to the already tense situation. The stakes are high, and the potential for miscalculation is ever present. Section 5. War Games. A hypothetical scenario. Let's imagine for a moment that the unthinkable happens. A scenario where tensions between two of the world's most populous nations, China and India, escalate beyond control. A border clash escalates, diplomatic efforts fail, and China and India find themselves locked in a full-blown war. The initial skirmishes would quickly spiral into a larger conflict, drawing in more troops and resources. What might such a conflict look like? The landscape of the Himalayas would become a battleground, with both sides vying for control over strategic high-altitude positions. The war would likely begin with a massive Chinese offensive across the Himalayas. Utilizing their superior logistics and infrastructure, Chinese forces would aim to penetrate deep into Indian territory. China would seek to exploit its advantage in air power and firepower to overwhelm Indian defenses and capture key strategic points. Their strategy would involve rapid, coordinated attacks designed to break through Indian lines. India, on the other hand, would rely on its defensive positions and knowledge of the terrain to slow down the Chinese advance and inflict heavy casualties. Indian forces would use guerrilla tactics and fortified positions to their advantage. The conflict would not be confined to the Himalayas. It would spread to other regions, including the Indian Ocean, where naval forces from both countries would clash. Both sides would target each other's critical infrastructure, including military bases, airfields, and ports. Strategic bombings and missile strikes would aim to cripple the opponent's ability to sustain the war effort. Cyber warfare would play a key role, with both countries seeking to cripple each other's command and control systems and sow chaos and confusion. Cyber attacks could disrupt communications, logistics, and even civilian infrastructure. The war would have a devastating impact on the region and the world. Cities would be destroyed and millions of people would be forced to flee their homes, creating a massive humanitarian crisis. Millions of people would be displaced, economies would be shattered, and global trade would be disrupted. The economic fallout would be felt worldwide, with markets crashing and supply chains breaking down. The conflict could also draw in other powers, turning it into a wider regional or even global war. Alliances would be tested, and the international community would be forced to respond to the escalating crisis. Section 6. The Nuclear Shadow. Looming over any potential conflict between China and India is the specter of nuclear war. Both countries possess nuclear weapons, and the use of even a single nuclear device would have catastrophic consequences. While both sides have declared a no first-use policy, meaning that they would only use nuclear weapons in retaliation for a nuclear attack, the fog of war could lead to miscalculations and escalate a conventional conflict into a nuclear one. The risk of nuclear escalation is a stark reminder of the stakes involved in a Sino-Indian war. It is a sobering thought that a conflict between these two Asian giants could potentially lead to the end of civilization as we know it. The international community must do everything in its power to prevent such a catastrophe. Diplomacy, dialogue, and confidence-building measures are essential to diffuse tensions and prevent a nuclear Armageddon.
So hit that subscribe button. Ring the bell for notifications, and let's turn the page on a new adventure together. Get ready to experience books like never before, only on VBook 360. Like, comment, and share to support the channel and keep the video magic alive. Thank you for stopping by. And remember, every video has a story, and every story deserves to be shared. See you in the next video.